Hey Brain Trust, welcome back to the channel. Let's talk about how to maximize your time as a game developer. This topic came up over on my Discord group, and I think it's a great question. For those of you who don't know me, I'm a dad of 3. I play music with a couple different local band and orchestras. I'm on the leadership board for my kids' scout group, and I'm a member of the PTA. Yet I still always make consistent progress on my game dev projects. So how do I manage everything and keep game development a priority? Well, stick around because I'm going to share some of my strategies for how I prioritize my time, how I stay organized, and how I keep my projects manageable. Let's start off with prioritizing and planning your time. First, I highly recommend you learn how to prioritize your non-negotiables and fit game development around those. For me, that's going to mean my leadership roles with Scouts and the PTA, but I also include my family time with that. I have weekly date nights with my wife here at the house. Once a month, we go out. I also spend one-on-one time with each of my kids and also teach them how to cook once a week. Those are not negotiable for me, and I always prioritize those. You'll have to sit and think about you and your circumstances. Those priorities will likely be different. Maybe work, it may be school, but think about what's most important in your life and prioritize game development around that. Number 2, start dedicating very specific blocks of time for game development only. Work these time blocks around your non-negotiables. For me, that's my kids, so I either do it before people wake up or after everybody goes to bed. And I'm typically here working on game development from 9 p.m. to 11 p.m. every single night. The one exception to that rule for me is Wednesday night, where me and my wife hang out here at the house and just have a little home date night. Number 3 kind of plays off that. You really need to start making game development a habit by committing to a very consistent routine. Yes, you can carve out these very specific time blocks for game development, but if you're not regularly showing up to do the work, it's not going to really make that much of a difference. Okay, let's talk about staying organized. I'm pretty sure I have undiagnosed ADHD, and given any amount of options to work on, I'm going to bounce all over the place. So staying organized is extremely important for me. One thing I like to use is a Kanban board, which allows me to track all my tasks, what I'm currently working on, and what's already been completed. This is an example from a game I'm currently working on called Shiloh, and you can see I've separated it into 5 tasks. On the far left is my backlog, which contains a list of everything that I want to do but haven't made it to just yet. Next is the to-do list. I typically limit this to 3 to 5 items that are the highest priority things that I need to work on. In progress, of course, is the item I'm currently working on. I never go more than 1 or 2 on this. Once items are complete, I don't move them straight to done. I'll typically move them to a review column and go back to them a day or 2 later with fresh eyes just to make sure I didn't miss anything. And finally, once everything is done, I'll move it into a done column so I've got an archive list of everything I've accomplished. I also recommend writing down what your highest priority item is each day. For me, I use a Clever Fox journal, and every night at 11:30 after I've done my game development, I take the time to recap what I've done and write down what I hope to achieve the next day. That way I know immediately where I need to pick back up. Okay, a lot of people make fun of me for this one, but I'm going to include it anyway. If possible, start your planning on paper. I do UML diagrams and class sketches of every application, every game that I do, long before I jump into a code editor. Personally, I find a tremendous amount of value in knowing every single class, every single method, every single variable that's going to go into it. It allows me to foresee problems on paper long before I ever have to deal with them in an engine. Okay, let's wrap up by talking about how to keep your projects manageable. Now, this is going to be unique to you, your goals as a game developer, the game you're working on, so I'm just going to share what's worked for me. As much as possible, learn how to avoid feature creep. You can do this by defining a very clear and very small scope. Again, you may have larger goals and ambitions as a game dev. That's perfectly fine. But for me personally, where I am as a game developer and the small amount of time that I have to work on my game, I really have to focus on keeping that scope small, and I feel like that has done wonders for me over the last couple games that I've done. Second, focus on projects that you can realistically complete within your available time. For me, I want to release my first commercial game within about a 6-month period. If I'm working 2 hours a day on my project, that gives me about 365 hours that I have to work on this. So I need to make sure that I focus on a project that can be completed in that time frame. And the final thing that I want to share, and this is as much to myself as it is to you, learn to prioritize your learning and incremental progress instead of perfection. In so many things that I do, I am a perfectionist. I want things done right, and I want things done right the first time. And sometimes whenever it's not perfect the first time, I get very frustrated with myself. Game development's hard. There's a lot of skills involved with this, and you're not going to get everything right the first time. Learn how to be patient with yourself. Give yourself more credit. You are creating something awesome. So those are a lot of the tips that have helped me maximize my game development time. And I know some of them are a little bit controversial, but I'm curious to see what works for you guys. How do you make more time for your passion projects? Let me know in the comments below. And if you're new to the channel, hello, welcome. My name is Mitchell. I'm a hobbyist game developer trying to make the transition into a full-time indie studio. This channel is all about game development. Here I'll be sharing my own personal projects, insight into how that transition into an indie studio is going. We're going to cover heavier topics like imposter syndrome, self-doubt, because those things are real and I struggle with them just like everybody else. And I'll also be sharing awesome projects that I see the game development community working on. If that sounds like something you'd like to be a part of, I'd love to have you along for the ride, so be sure to hit that subscribe button. Take care, and I'll see you next time.